Hello Internet, my name is Lave and I watched Deadpool 2, which is directed by David Leitch, who previously directed Atomic Blonde and some of John Wick, so an action-focused director to take over the reins from Tim Miller, who did such a fantastic job with the first Deadpool but then left because of creative differences. That old chestnut. But perhaps more importantly, Ryan Reynolds is back as the merc with a mouth. This time around he goes up against Cable, a time-travelling mutant from the future who's come back to kill a kid and change the course of history, Looper style. For reasons I won't spoil, Deadpool tries to stop him. Along the way he recruits help in the shape of X-Force and some other familiar faces. So the first Deadpool was a complete riot and felt really fresh. For me it was the underdog of all of the Marvel movies. So the fact that they were able to deliver a true to the comics R-rated depiction of the character was remarkable and extremely satisfying, and is probably why it did so well. The fact that it took such a long time for it to get greenlit, and then it had a lengthy pre-production process. I believe they actually started making it back in 2004, and then the fact that they actually slashed the budget because they weren't confident with it, I believe actually was probably a blessing in disguise. I think that forced everyone involved to be ultra creative and deliver a very simple but effective story which broke the fourth wall, punched you in the face and made you laugh. Now, 2 years later, we're getting the inevitable sequel, which, as the man says himself, promises to live up to the hype plus. Now, I wouldn't go as far to say that this film does live up to the hype plus. It definitely has its moments and it definitely made me laugh. I enjoyed the introduction to Cable, played by Josh Brolin, who is fine. I still think Stephen Lang could have done just as good a job, but then as a trade-off we wouldn't have got all of the Thanos jokes. The other new characters are fine too. The kid from Hunt from the Wilder People is funny. I really liked Domino, and I really loved what they did with the X-Force team, which includes a literal blink and you will miss it celebrity cameo. It's hilarious. But their introduction does feel choppy. As an example, Cable will pop up, but then he'll disappear, then he'll pop up again, then he'll disappear and then reappear again. As a trade-off, that means we don't see much of Negasonic Teenage Warhead. She pops up to say, I've got a new girlfriend. Deadpool's like, that's cool. Colossus is there, and they do try to humanize Deadpool, which I wouldn't say is entirely successful, but Ryan Reynolds is clearly having fun and he is born to play Deadpool. He's awesome. He's clearly having fun starring in this film and is enjoying his responsibilities as one of the writers, which does build to the inevitable big third act showdown, which also introduces another character which fans of the X-Men franchise are particularly going to love. But what I'm trying to say is that the mechanics of this film are exposed. It just doesn't seem to flow as well as the first one, and I definitely think that is a result of them pumping this out within 2 years. Another area of the film where I think this shows is in the visual effects. Colossus, as an example, doesn't look as well rendered this time round, and Deadpool's eyes on a few occasions looked a bit flat to me. They still do the CG assisted facial expressions, which I do think is a lovely touch, but his whites of his eyes sometimes look like paper cutouts. I'm not sure what the budget was for Deadpool 2. At a guess, I would say it's between 58 million, which was the budget for the first one, and 100 million. So not the biggest budget when compared to other superhero movies, but I do wonder, could they perhaps taken a chunk of that money which they spent on the marketing, which was extensive, and maybe pump that into the visual effects and polish them up a bit? This is really just a long-winded way of me saying that I don't think this film is as smart as the first one. It's not as creative either. Is it funny? Absolutely. And at the end of the day, when I think back to my expectations of the first one, I said that I wanted it to do three things. I said I wanted it to be funny, I wanted it to be meta, and I wanted it to be over-the-top violent. And this one has a feeling of, here we go again. I mean, they do expand on some of the jokes. Some are absolutely hilarious. I was laughing, but it just doesn't feel as fresh as the first one, and maybe that's to be expected. So that's my thoughts on Deadpool 2, and pause the video if you want to take a closer look at my enjoyment tracker now. All in all, I had a blast with Deadpool 2. I laughed a hell of a lot, none more so than the mid-credit scene, which makes everything that I just said and every other review that you've seen completely irrelevant. It pokes fun at Fox and the way they tend to handle their big superhero franchises in true Deadpool style. That's probably the best joke of all. So thanks very much for watching my review of Deadpool 2. I'm sorry it's taken such a long time for me to post, but sometimes creating content, you run into problems and it seems like the gods are conspiring against you to actually upload it. And that's what happened with this one. I saw this on Tuesday. I filmed it on Wednesday with the intention to upload it on Wednesday, fired up my PC. Something was wrong with that, so I had to fix that. Got it fixed, started editing it on Thursday and discovered that I hadn't plugged in the mic, so my initial review sounded like this. Hello internet, my name is Lave and I watched Deadpool 2. At this point I thought I might be able to save it because the camera does have its own microphone. I thought if I could reduce some of the background noise and just pump up the volume, I might be able to save it, but then problems always come in threes. I discovered that some of the video was corrupted and half of it was missing, and I was just like, oh my god. So I'm refilming it now. I've got another review which I'm going to film back to back, so keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. As always, I really do appreciate it. If you can, give this video a like and don't forget to share the Lave. Notice I stayed away from saying Ryan Reynolds reprises his role as Wade Wilson. Oh, I nailed it. Subscribe.